Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. My name is Juliet, and this is uxuntamed. And I'm super excited to have you all here. As you know, this space is all about empowering and giving tools and giving information and sharing stories for new designers or maybe people that are switching careers and they want to know more about what it is to be in design, what it is to be a designer, how is the day to day. And I'm pretty excited about, I know, and I always say the same. I think this should be my phrase. I was thinking before starting today that this should be my slang for the podcast. I'm excited about today guest. Um, he has worked in so many different industries and he has such a long career in design. He's here in Canada. So let's welcome him and he can tell us more about himself. Hey, Daniel, how are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Well, why don't you tell people who you are first?
Cool. My name is Daniel. I'm from Brazil originally. I live here in Canada for almost 7 years now. I'm in London, Ontario. Before that, I was living in Toronto. And like you mentioned, I have more than 15 years of experience in design since my graduation back in 2006. But I started working in the field around 2002, 2001, after like the high school. Uh, and I worked like for fintechs, large banks, education, e-commerce, health industry, crypto, real estate, digital agencies. So like I have like a broad uh, subjects
Yeah, super
for
interesting. And I
yeah.
think that when I know that we had the chance to talk and we have another vision for today podcast, but then I was looking at your LinkedIn and seeing all the experience that you have. I thought that it will people would love to see like the difference between industries. But before we go into that, I
Mm.
always love to ask people that mostly know something fun and unique. Usually people always surprise me with such a fun thing. So what about you?
Uh, I'm addicted to chocolate. Yeah,
I
like
mean, who
I'm
is not? I feel like when people say I don't like chocolate, it's like, what do you mean? I
no,
feel
like
like
I definitely addicted. Like, yeah, it's not the sweet part because I'm not like a candies or lollipops or those kind of stuff. It's more like chocolate.
wow.
And
What would you
I
say is
and
your favorite one?
favorite uh, white chocolate.
Oh, white chocolate. Okay.
Yeah,
Do you have like
yeah,
a brand in mind or?
Lindt, Lindt.
Oh my goodness! I was in Zurich like 2 weeks ago. Funny thing, I didn't have the chance to eat chocolate. And I mean, I saw it everywhere. I saw land like, but it's like, oh, we have that in Canada. So it's like, I don't know. I was expecting to see something else, but I didn't know eat chocolate. But
I wish I wish we had Milka here. It's not easy to find Milka here because Milka is so good. There's like the Oreo ones. Oh man, amazing.
I love sweets, so I'm down there with the chocolate. Okay, I can talk about sweets and chocolates all day long,
Yeah,
but I think people will be more interested to know about your career. So why don't you
yeah.
tell people how did you end up in UX design? I know that you told us a little bit that you work even
hmm
before finishing university or high school. So how did you end up in UX?
Yeah, it's let's try to make it short because my father is a graphic designer, my mom is an architect, so I grew up with pens and paints and pencils and papers and erasers and all of those stuff like a craft. Uh, so in high school, I did computer science as minors back in Brazil, and I went to university for computer science. After a year and a half, I dropped out. like coding is not for me. And when I was talking with my father, I said, "Yeah, it's hard. Like I don't know what to do. I like technology. I like computers. I like digital stuff." And he said, "Hey, try web design. Try it. It's like a brand new course around like that." I did like a college for 2.5 years, and right after my graduation, everything was like about agencies and campaigns, and no one was paying attention to the user. It's more around like creating beautiful screens, beautiful campaigns to earn awards, like the FWA, the Cyber Lion campaign, like the WWW awards, etc. And in all the agencies that I worked with, I was like a designer who was more into like wireframes, more into like, hey, this button here will convert more if we like change the color, or if we change the placement here. Maybe we can play around with the information of texture here and there. And after like 4 or 5 years struggling with UX in those digital agencies, I switched to product, to an e-commerce product. It was like a price comparison. In Brazil, it was booming at that time. It was around 2010, and I never looked back to agencies, like because this idea of working fully with product and UX and also UI was amazing, and especially like being the first designer hired in the company, being able to like foment the design chapter within the company, talk with engineers, talk with marketing, in all those like early stages of the product was amazing. And since then, like it's all product.
Well, and I mean, one of that was kind of my next question, that how did you get that first UX job? And I know that again, before you came to Canada, you have like tons of
Mm-hmm.
experience back home in Brazil. So you were saying that how is like a boom, like it was a boom back then,
Yeah.
UX. Yeah. So how did your career kind of keep transitioning while you were in Brazil?
It was around like 5 more years. So it was in between 2010 and in 2015, where like all the mobile stuff come up, because iPhone was released in 2007. So and in Brazil stuff back back in the day, it was like a year or so to get the devices. Like was July 2007 in the US and Europe and Canada, where everyone was with the mobile devices in hands, and in Brazil was like around 2008. So from 2010 to 2015, everyone was like the transition to maybe like, yeah, we have to have an app. We have to have an app for everything. And sometimes app is not the solution. So we started talking about responsive, the flexible grids, etc. And in 2014, I joined a company full of mobile. All the products were native apps and mobile web apps for the phone carriers in Brazil. So we have like app stores for Android. We have like some gaming, etc. that embedded from the carrier. And that was when I got a chance to talk with Xello, which was the company that brought me here to Canada because of my mobile experience.
Wow, I love that kind of like you are kind of one of those core people back home. Yes, it's like
Yeah,
you were there when you were supposed to be there to know all
yeah,
these knowledge about from zero, like really to inventing thing and realize. And I love when you point out like everybody wanted it up, but that was not the solution. And I think to be able to speak up and say, hey, it's cool to have an app, but people is not what they want, and maybe is not the best space.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I didn't know about this for you, that you ended up coming to Canada because your company. That's amazing. I don't know if people is not amazed about this, like bringing like people from outside of Canada because of the knowledge of like UX. How did you used to call it before? You think that was UX, like a term really in the industry? I don't.
Mm. Yeah, those labels, it's kind of hard because I've been called like UI, UX designer, UX designer, product designer, visual designer, digital designer. Like it's kind of hard. I always said like I'm a designer, period. And right now I'm working with apps. But yesterday I was working with websites. Tomorrow I may be working with SAS software, and everything is design. It's just labels. Like, at least in my opinion, like it's labels, labels, and labels.
Well, okay, so you came to Canada, and I think that was kind of my next question.
Mm.
How did it feel? Because you have, of course, you've been working back home, and they really know who you are, and you know the people, and you know the industry, and you know who to call. Yes, it's like, but then you came back to Canada. Oh, you are in Canada now, and such a big difference. And I think we were talking at one point how much you miss the sun from back home, and such a big change of weather.
Yeah, it
So how
was.
was that transition for you?
Yeah, the company that sponsored my wife and my visa here, the design director was my friend. He's also Brazilian, so it was like an easy transition, company wise, like work wise. But for sure, the life experience was insane because we moved from Rio to Toronto end of January 2016. So like we were in midsummer back there. It was like 40 plus degrees, and when we arrived in Toronto, the amount of the plane was like minus 16, minus 18. So like the first months was insane because of the cold weather. It was super intense. Even when we moved from the Airbnb that we rented to our like apartment, we got like the snow blizzard. It was a mess. It was a mess. But
Did you have the clothes ready? Like, did you? I know, like, I think when you watch snow and cold and winter movies, it always looks so pretty. Yes,
yeah,
and you never
it's
think that
pretty
you're going to
outside.
do that.
It's
Yes,
pretty outside the window.
yeah. So I don't.
Yeah.
And then you think, oh yeah, this jacket is going to be good enough for the weather. It's never
Yeah,
enough.
but we kind of like had that experience a year before because on December 2014, the company paid us like to come here to visit the office to get to know the city. We stayed for a week in Toronto. I went to the office 2 days on that week, and Carol was exploring the city just for us to like, and we got the first snowstorm of that winter from 14 to 15. So like we kind of knew what we're gonna face, and it was nice from Xello to sponsor this week here for us because I can know the office, I can know the team in person, and then like I was working the whole 2015 remotely from Brazil, waiting all the bureaucracy around the visa, the working papers, etc. Right now, I believe it's like 3 months. The process is so fast right now, and so like we kind of like we know what we're gonna face when we move because we're gonna move in the middle of the winter. So like we kind of like work a little more prepared than people used to think, but like was insane.
It's still, yeah, totally. And I'm glad that like the company at that time was really aware of like, okay, this is going to be a big change. Let's give them some awareness of what they're going to be around.
Yeah.
But okay, so then what about the culture? I mean, I know that you said that you worked for the company for a while.
Mhm.
Then when did you realize I need to change? Like there is something else for me there outside of here.
Uh, outside Xello or outside Brazil?
No, outside of the job that you got here.
Mm.
Oh, well, I mean, were you ever thinking like to stay in Canada, or it was like, okay, let's see, let's give it a try.
Yeah, back in the day, we were thinking about like let's see how it goes. Like let's see what happens. Let's try out at least like for a year and see how everything will fit. And I stayed in the company for almost 4 years because it was such an amazing culture. Probably the best company I ever worked for. The team was amazing. Everyone was super uh, uh, like helpful, and I was like the guinea pig of the company with the sponsorship for different countries. After me, we hired a couple more Brazilians and people from other countries as well. But the majority of the other countries was the process was easier, especially like people because people were like study here in Canada already, so it was a little easier. And the other Brazilians like the process was already different because each year they changed the polls, the points to get the working visa, etc. So like the company was really nice, helping everyone. Like the culture at Xello is amazing. So it was very easy to stay here for a while, and
Well,
we're still here.
yeah, yeah, that's true. So now that you stayed in the company, I mean, you said for 4 years. Do you say that you were able, or I imagine, to set up a lot of processes and
Yeah,
bring in the company, like the UX experience, like as
yeah.
ambassador, like in a different level? Like, how did you end up doing that?
Like I mentioned, the company chose to hire me because of my mobile experience. At that time, Zello was transitioning from their V2 product to the V3. So like they decided to create V3 from scratch instead of just like upgrading and updating the screens and the product. So like it was a brand new product, and they were needing to create also the mobile part because the clients, Xello is an educational software. Like the clients, which were the schools, they were asking for a mobile product, so the students could load on the tablet, on their phone, etc. And that's why Marcel brought me in. And after a while, we were working in like 3 or 4 different products in a responsive way, not only anymore in the native apps. So like one of my biggest achievements at Xello was this opportunity to help not only Marshall but also Victor, who were the lead designer at the time, to create this idea of the responsiveness across the products, and also help like the young designers, help the engineers, the product managers to create like this environment of where all the products were responsive, all the products would fit from a mobile screen to a desktop screen, and it was an amazing experience for those almost 4 years.
Yeah. When did you decide, okay, I did a lot and learned a lot, and it's time for me to move on?
Yeah, it was hard. Like it was after almost a year after my daughter was born. Like I was really like not super focused anymore on my work at Zella. Like it was a little hard to keep doing the same stuff, especially because I was used to like work maybe like 2 3 years with the same product and then switch to another company. So like I'm almost 4 years here. Kind of like was in that spot where I'm not ready yet to become a lead designer here at Xello, but I also want to try other stuff, to try new stuff. And then was when I joined RBC as a mobile designer and a concept designer. Like my time at RBC, I was doing like half of half on mobile and concept with digital products. So like I was experimenting a lot with not only the RBC mobile app, but also with the mortgage team, the investing team, with the digital product managers, like trying a variety of stuff. I've worked for RBC for 15 months, and then I did another switch to real estate for Rocket Home, which is a US company. They just came to Canada last year, and they're huge. Like they are under the Quicken Loans umbrella, the Rocket family, and it was amazing because I was working a lot with a lot more experienced designer on UX. I was doing more visual than UX because they were like insanely good with UX accessibility research. They said that they had like a huge team of researchers. I learned a lot with the Rocket teams.
What is always interesting for me when you change like spaces is like I
Mm-hmm.
don't know anything about banks. Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
how do you get out of that is that fear? Like I imagine that is like what they will like me. Like even if I'm so good at design, it's like I don't know anything. How did you manage that?
it's butterflies in the stomach every day, every day. And this is what I'm experiencing right now at Toptal because it's the fear. It's not FOMO, it's not fear of missing out, but like the fear of not knowing the business makes you try to learn and give like more than 100% every day. So, like I don't know what this is about. Like yeah, I need to learn. I need to be focused. I need to ask questions. I need to communicate myself with the rest of the team. It's not something that hey I know about this. Let me do it and just like open Figma or Photoshop or whatever tool and just like spinning screens and colors and fonts all over the place. Like you have to understand the user, you have to understand the problems, you have to understand the business, not only the design part, but more on the business part. So like it was every time like and even when I mentor young designers, I always say like every time you feel like you, I don't know, maybe I want to make a switch, do it because you're not focused anymore on the problems that you're trying to solve with your current company. So like every time you move, you grow. Every time you switch companies, you grow. For some people, like they have this ability of staying motivated for 5, 10, more than 10 years within the same company. But for other people, like they have like almost like a better before time. They're like, I worked for this company for 2 years. After 2 years, I'm good. And it started to become like a pattern, a behavior of every 2 years, every year you make a switch. I did that because I'm one of those persons, and probably that's why right now with Toptal I'm on a place that I switch products every 2, 3 months because I work as a freelance and I do like a project. I give myself 100% during those 3 months to that particular project. I understand the business, understand the problems, etc. We ship the MVP, the V1, whatever it's the stage of the company, and then I'm hired to another project. Sometimes that company that I did the MVP hired me back to do the V1, the V2, and it's always fun. It's always like a fresh start, a new beginning.
And I think for anyone, is really important to know that. Yes, like I do like to change 2 years. No, I do like to stay with a company for 5, 10 years. And I
Yep,
think it's for you to sit down with yourself and don't compare it to Daniel or don't compare it to Juliet or don't compare it to anyone. It's really what
yep,
I enjoy and trust your gut. And I think that's something really important that sometimes we forget and we put on the side is like trust who you are,
yep.
trust what you've been working on, and go for it. I mean, don't be in a year thinking, oh, I should have done the move. I had that opportunity and didn't do it. So it's for you to, yeah, just go for it. It's scary. I mean, for me, that was another question that I have. I know that, okay, you changed jobs. How did you approach the job search? Do people or companies went came to you and say, hey, there is this, would you like to join? Like, how was that approach for you to find a job?
Yeah, there's both ways, and to the point that you were talking about, like not to compare yourself to other people, to other designers. Like it's a path like self knowledge, so where you know yourself as a professional, as a person, to understand how you're gonna feel it, and this also like resonate on when you do the job hunt. Sometimes you are in a place and the right opportunity just pops up. Like a recruiter sends you a message on LinkedIn, and you read the job description and say, "Wow, I want to do it. I'm not doing this right now in my current job, although I'm pretty happy about what I'm doing now. Like this looks amazing. At least like open the door and talk. Be able to talk with the recruiter. Like send a message. Hey, I'm not looking for switch gigs right now, but like I kind of like want to learn more about this because it looks interesting and see how it goes. Like maybe during the interviews, maybe during like the process of getting to know this new opportunity, you realize it's the right time to make a move. There's a lot of discussions about salary because every time you make a move, you make more money, and sometimes like you're a year and a half, 2 years without like a pay raise, or the raise is not good enough for you, and it makes sense to change to make more money. I don't know. For some people, money comes first. For others, don't. So like, and sometimes I honestly, I think only once I did the like I send a message, hey, I I want to work with you. I really like your company. I saw this job posting here. Like, here's my portfolio. But the majority of the time was the other way around. Like, I got a message on my LinkedIn from a recruiter or on my Dribble account. Say, hey, I really like your style. We have this opportunity here. Uh, are you interested to learn more? Let's make like a quick intro call for half an hour to understand. And it was like up until like my last company, I think.
And I feel like, I mean, I imagine that a lot of people is asking, oh, how do you get there? Yes, because and I feel like that a lot of people, this channel is a lot about people that is switching career, that is new to UX, and I feel, of course, this comes into having experience, of course. But what else? I mean, I feel like I'm not reading even the questions that I wrote for you. But what do you think that people should be doing to start kind of promoting themselves and putting themselves out to start getting people to reach to them outside of working? Yes, because of course, yeah, we need to get the experience, but what are the things that we could do people noticing us?
Yeah, you have to like keep learning, keep designing. Your portfolio is your business card in this industry. Like If you don't want to have like a personal portfolio, just open a Dribble account, a Behance account, and start like publishing, start like posting. Even like if you're a junior designer, if you're transitioning from a graphic designer to a product, or coming from a product manager to design, like just open whatever tool like Figma, XD, Sketch, doesn't matter, and start like designing. If you don't have a project right now, just like maybe grab whatever product they use the most. Maybe like your paint, or I don't know, Facebook, Instagram, Duolingo, whatever, and try to copy first, like to like it exactly the same interface, because that's where you learn a lot of techniques. You learn how to compose your screens, etc. You can publish that saying, "Hey, it's just for like study purposes," and etc. And then you start to vary your style. Like I'm one of my last posts on Dribble, if you go to my Dribble file, you'll see a TD project. I simply opened my TD uh, web account. It is ugly as hell. That system. It looks like from the 90s. And I worked for RBC. RBC is amazing. The design team at RBC is amazing. I simply got some screenshots of that ugly thing that TD calls an interface, and I start like doing some new stuff based on my perspective. I did not do like any research. I do not have any user information or business information. It was just like a UI revamp with my style, with my ideas, and that's fine because that particular post got me a job with another fintech, because they saw that and they said, "Oh, your style matches with us. You seem to know how to do like dashboards. You seem to know the business, the industry of fintechs. Can you do something with us? Let's talk." And yeah, okay, let's go for it. And keep doing like whatever you have a free time. Please don't do like all your free time. Have a life. So like take like 2 hours of your free time, do some like daily UI challenges where you create like a login screen, or you create like a checkout screen, or you create like an Amazon product screen, and just apply your style, apply your technique. Up to a point, you have a profile on those like platforms that people will start connect you, build your social networking around the design community. That's where you start to like know new designers, connect with other designers. Like there's tons of design communities on Slack. Just find one that fits yourself and go for it.
I love that, and I think is like, what are you doing? Yeah, it's like I feel like a lot of people is like, yeah, I'm applying for jobs, and yeah, like what else? It's like what, how you keeping yourself busy, how you are moving those skills up. As like, yeah, I mean, honestly, yes, finding a job if you're applying is like a lot of
Yeah.
work and it's not fun. But I feel like if you come to an interview or you start talking to people and say, like, hey, I've been doing this, I've been redesigning, I've been reading, I don't know, whatever it is like how you keep, or how you tell people that you're passionate about your change or to getting a job is like there is nothing like to become an athlete without training. Yes, it's like, no, just
Yeah.
show to the career and you win. Like there's a lot of work behind an athlete or getting a job,
Mhm.
getting promoted, whatever it is massaging those skills and practicing
Yeah.
and knowing what you're good at it, and definitely knowing what you are not good at it, and then you can
Yeah.
practice the skill hard. But I think just show your passion. I think
Yeah.
that's the kind of what you're saying is like show your passion, show you that you love this. Mhm.
Yeah. I often do like analogy of design with cooking. You only make good food because you like cook every day or every 2 days or every weekend, and you start like, oh, my meat is amazing. I love to cook meat or chicken or pasta or risotto. Oh, my risotto is amazing. My mashed potato is amazing because you do that often. With design is the same thing. As much as you do like a thing, you are becoming better. You're becoming like a better designer. And the idea of knowing the business will be will come after, because to know the business you have to work for a particular industry, and in order to work for that industry you have to at least have a portfolio, have something to show. So like you don't work as a chef in a restaurant if you don't know how to cook for yourself. If
Yeah,
you
that
don't
totally
eat
makes
your
sense.
food, people don't will not eat your food.
That would be a scary. That would be a scary if you see a chef cooking and not eating their food. There is
Yeah,
something really wrong. So that
yeah.
totally makes sense. Um, Something that for me is kind of intriguing. Uh, maybe when you were talking about changing jobs, that okay, I'm not happy here. Let's move to another one. And I don't know if this because our cultures. I mean, I'm Colombia, and I don't know, the Latinx culture has these like, oh my goodness, this person just changed jobs all the time. Yes, it's like, why don't you stay someplace? Um, but what is valuable when changing industries? What will you say that is something like, I want to do this because I will get that? What will you say that is the more valuable part?
Mm. And to be honest, it's not only Colombians that think about that. Also Brazilians, also Canadian, also American. Uh, in Europe, uh, for some people, if they see like your LinkedIn profile, you have like 6 months, a year, every time you change companies, people like, hey, I want to hire this person because in a year this person will leave us. But instead of asking that, is like, why did you leave? Because the company was not good, because the culture was not a fit for me, because the work was not making me like inspired to do my best. And if I learned, like I was saying with Xello, like I stayed with Xello for almost 4 years. It's the longest in my career. And instead of asking like, hey, I don't want to hire this person because he or she changed like companies a lot, ask why. It's simple as that. Like, hey, why did you decide to move? What happened? Did you were fired or you resigned? If the person said, "Oh, I was fired," okay, but why? Because you're not motivated enough. Why you're not motivated at force like a company to fire you? Did you do something like crazy? Or if you resign, why you decided to resign? Like it's kind of like a two-edged sword. And I tend to when I was doing like hiring process, I always asked like, hey, it doesn't matter if you change like company for like 3 months. If you decided to leave in 3 months, it's because that company was not the right one for you. So like it doesn't matter as long as when the time you were working with me in the company I work with, if you give yourself like 100%, doesn't matter if it's a week or 10 years.
And I think that's again, I think we're going back to kind of the beginning and those uh, sitting down with yourself. I mean, there are companies that they look so good
Yeah,
on paper and they look so
yeah,
good when you're talking with them. And then you realize that you went into this relationship with people who were
yeah.
not honest. And I think for me, when this point of changing careers is has been really important for me to show my true self in all the ways. Yes, it's like, okay, I'm Latina, I like to have fun, I'm loud, whatever it is. Yes, whatever it is that is your true self. I've been trying to my best when I interview with people, when I'm networking to show who I am. Yes, it's like, do you want to be around this? This is what it is. Yes, there is no change. There is not that I'm going to work and I'm going to be different. Like I
Yeah,
put myself so much in a box, and honestly, sometimes companies don't do that. They don't through. Of course, they're not going to find people if they
exactly.
show the true self. But if you go to a company, you realize, oh my goodness, I have heard people that is like they thought that working in tech was horrible, and it's like, no, I think when you start talking to people and see other companies and the culture, you realize that is there are just some companies like anywhere, everywhere there are going to be bad apples. And sometimes, and totally again, this has to do a lot about where you are in your career, what is happening at home, that you can just not quit and just find another
Yeah,
job. So but I think it's for you to be conscious about like, I'm not learning here. They promised mentorship. There is no mentorship. They told us there was going to be onboarding, whatever it is. And you're not finding the flow, and you're putting yourself on and asking questions and saying, hey, I think I need more help here, or more, again, mentorship, or more life work balance, something that you promised and then it's not happening. Ask the hard questions, and try to figure it out. There are companies that it will love to have you. They will love to have who you are, holistic way. So I think is, don't be scared to stay, because there are a million places that would love to kill to have you. Mhm.
yeah, yeah, exactly that.
Yeah.
Exactly that.
Okay. Now that you, okay, I know we've been talking so much about other things, but if you could compare the different industries that you have worked, how
Mhm.
do you transfer that knowledge between companies or like industries? uh yes, how do you do that?
Usually, the knowledge that I carry over is around process, like this process of creating like a design system. In the last company was this way. This worked well. This did not work well. Like every time, like I like to do like a retro, almost like a sprint retro, where you have like what went well, what didn't go well, what needs to change, or start, stop, continue, those kind of stuff, to like be able to share my experience with the new company, and also to learn what they're doing that is going to like uh, maybe like increase my knowledge in something, or like, hey, what you guys are doing here that it is going well, what do we need to change here? Because based on my experience, if we do this, maybe it can be better, or this way it didn't work for me in the company, tell me more so I can fit in this kind of process. uh, because like I mentioned, like design is design. The core of what we do, it's always the same. It's the end product that changes. So like if let's say like a hiring process was super successful in a company because X, Y, and Z, and we feel like, hey, we had like a lot of success hiring people, and right now we're struggling. Why? Like, how can we change here? Like maybe bring someone from another company to give like a talk of how they're doing, like because we know a lot of people that are working in other companies. Let's share the knowledge, like, hey, how was for you guys to create your design process? Did you have like a design principles? How did you do it? Can can you help us, like even like, hey, we can pay you like an hour or 2 hours to share your knowledge with us, like because we're in middle of the process to create our design principles, our design system. uh, we're creating like a product from scratch, etc. Can you help us? Like, hey, I know someone, or maybe someone from this new company knows another designer or another project manager that can help, like sharing the knowledge. Communication is always like the best way to carry over those experiences across different industries. It's not something like, hey, I was working with a fintech last week, and right now I'm working with a diabetes company. It's two completely different industries. They doesn't get along unless the diabetes company is doing some like selling stuff. They're having like a product for helping the diabetes people, the people that has diabetes, to like maybe with a health insurance, because that will become like a health care fintech or fintech slash healthcare. Then you can have like the bridge between the two industries. But it's just like simple products, it's hard. So like I always carry over like a process.
No, and I think I mean, something that I have found on my job that I feel like, I don't know if people, I feel like people don't talk too much about it when you're switching careers or when you're in those early stages, is how much you can empower the team with
Mhm.
processes. It's like, I mean, there is something wrong. It's taking so much time, whatever we're doing, what we keep doing, what we're doing. Yes. And I feel it is for us as a designers, I mean, outside of the product that we're building, is like how we can make our relationship better and make this work faster in a way. Yes, it's like, what, it doesn't have to take me an hour if we can reduce the time to, I don't know, 15 minutes. And I think that's a great way to show the value that you have
Yep.
as a designer. Is like, hey, I've been talking to people, I've been doing this little research, these are the issues. And I mean, if you see it, that's a lot of what we do exactly in design. We just put it in
Mhm.
effect in a different way to form. So I think that's a great one to start talking to people with, what kind of experience do you have. I think companies love, yes, you went for it and changes happen and we learn from it. That's pretty cool. I mean, anyone pretty much can do that if we keep
Yeah,
open.
and that's how you become more senior, because it's when you stop thinking only about the screens, only about the prototypes, and you start thinking about more about productivity, about roadmaps, about deliveries, about research, because design is not only three beautiful screens that the colors are amazing, everything is accessible. In as long as the company understand that the design team can do much more for the company on those processes, like the design driven companies are like, and this is kind of like a trend topic right now, because a lot of companies are transitioning from, hey, we have 50 engineers because we need to ship the product, and we have 5 designers. You're not going to be successful, because a lot of process is focused on engineering. You don't have a product process, and be able to think, and that's where agile comes along, like this idea of having design sprints, retro. It's where you understand the problems within your processes. So like if the design team is the bottleneck right now, it's not only like the solution is not simply like hire more designers. You have to understand why the bottleneck is on the design team. It's maybe because you have a huge backlog. The design team it's not mature enough to deliver those tasks, or simply they're delivering tasks all around without thinking about the product, without thinking about the process. So and that's where like you become like a senior, you become a leader, you become a design manager, and people, companies with like VP of product, VP of design, design directors. That's where everything starts to like fit like a puzzle, and the product starts to grow.
Oh, I mean, we can talk for hours, uh, but I think I want to answer some of the questions that we have,
Mm-hmm.
but I want to jump a little bit or talk a little bit about freelancing. Yes, I feel like,
Yeah.
and that encapsulate a little bit of what you were just talking. Yes, those transitions
Mm-hmm.
of like knowing so many little pieces that you are
Mm-hmm.
able to like jump into different projects back and
Yeah.
forward, different companies, maybe things that you have never heard before, and you feel comfortable into uncomfortable spaces, and you can reach to deliver a project. So when
Yeah.
do you start thinking it's like, okay, freelancing is what I like and what I'm comfortable at the moment, and how do you manage going, yeah, from project to project, and do you like it?
I never stopped doing freelance. Since my first projects were freelance projects before I landed my internship. My first project was for the Pilates clinic of my uncle. So like I started as a nephew in the industry. So like and I never stopped. Like if you go to my LinkedIn profile, there's like 16 years of like freelance designer. Because even when I was working full time, I was doing freelance on my part time. Because that's where like I learned new techniques. I could explore more outside of my 9 to 5. And right now, being like a full-time freelancer gives me this idea of like I can do more than one project at a time, and also I have to be more self-aware than I ever had. Like I need to have like a schedule super tight. Like in the morning, I work for 4 hours for a client. Then I stop for an hour to like lunch, relax a little bit, and then I work for 4 more hours on another project. I have like two roadmaps happening at the same time, and that's where I said like it's butterflies and stomach every day. Every day is a new stuff. Like I get to know different people. I get to know different industries. I get to be like a more well-rounded designer, not only on the technical side, but also on like management, on we also like wearing like product manager hats, PO, because I have to do almost everything on my own because I'm talking with the clients every day. Like the client is my user, and if I don't communicate, the product will not be good, and then I don't get paid. When you have like your full time 9 to 5, your paycheck will come no matter what. It doesn't matter if you like be like in meetings the whole day or if you're designing the whole day. But for me, like I have to be like half meetings, half design, half meetings, half design. All the meetings needs to be like on point. We can't waste time on like a meeting that is like an hour where we spend like 45 minutes talking about our weekends and only 15 minutes actually like doing the meetings, because 90% of the meetings could be an email easily, easily. And if we can take some good out of this like last 2 years of the COVID pandemic, is that companies are like more uh, uh, like productive than ever. Because when people were working from home, they were like, yeah, let's do a quick call here, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, boom, 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 quick, and go to work, blah, 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 blah. The production levels were like increasing a lot when everyone was working from home. Because in the office, hey, do you have time right now? And then, hey, blah, 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 and then someone else come join, and then now let's go to the meeting room. Blah, blah. So like when you do quick calls remotely, it's on point. You have to do like 15 minutes. That's 60 minutes done. have like half an hour, done. So like working as a freelance, full time as a freelance, it's helping a lot with this like broad idea of uh, what is to be a designer.
What would you say if you can mention like two or three good things, bad things about being a freelancer?
So three bad things. You have to be very aware of your time. Uh, Second, it's you the uncertainty of getting paid. You only got paid if you have work. And three, anxiety. People can be like very anxious as a freelancer. Pros, owning your schedule, top one. Uh, Make more money. You make a whole lot more money than working for someone else. And three would be the variety of work.
Yeah, I mean, and again, this is going back to what kind of things do you like to do? If you think that,
Yeah,
oh, I want to be like a specialist in like a product and know inside out, maybe freelancing is not for you. But I wanted to mention something that you mentioned at the beginning of freelancing. And I think it's for all of those who are starting their careers. It's like, oh, no one wants to hire me. No one, like, I cannot find a job. And I mean, people who love you, family, friends, are going to be down to help you to grow
for sure.
and get
For
those
sure.
skills down. Yes, something that I did too. I went to my friend's website and was like, oh my goodness, we can do better. Yes. And it doesn't have to, honestly, it didn't finish up as what I gave them, but
Yeah.
they took a lot of what my feedback that I gave them, and they put it into place and it worked. And this took me like the challenge to, okay, I have talked to clients, I know how it is back and forward, let's go to someone else. Yes. And then you start building these clientele out of love, because people love you and they start, oh, Juliet did the website for me, she did this project for me, why don't you talk to her? So it's like,
Yeah.
go and start asking people. It's like, hey, I saw your website. Hey, I think you need a website, or whatever it is. And start talking to people, building those skills. It's stuff that you can put in your in your resume because you did it. So I think that's a great way to start your career for people. Is like, no one wants to hire me. Just go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go to the questions. We have a little bit of time. So this is from Isabel. I'm a junior. I'm a junior, 9 months of experience. Do I have any chance to apply to remote job from abroad, living in Brazil? I think these go a lot with the freelancing, but what will you say?
Yeah. You have a lot of change, although don't expect much around like uh, money wise, and also like the freedom to work. You can apply to remote jobs for sure, but more entry level. They're like a couple websites that have like tons of remote opportunities. There's a lot of people, companies right now hiring remotely, especially because, like I mentioned, these last 2 years of the pandemic of everyone working from home. I have like you work remotely, remote jobs. Just Google it, and you find like a lot of opportunities. On LinkedIn is harder because most of the time the remote opportunities on LinkedIn is just like we have to post the jobs, but we are hiring someone else. It's just a matter of like uh, uh, almost like advertise the company, but the other websites dedicated to remote jobs, for sure you land someone.
Okay. How is to work 100% in English? That's a good one. I mean, you've been in Canada for a while, but I think that first job that got you into Canada How did that
Yeah.
work? How did your Portuguese went into English 100%?
The first 3 months was like thinking in Portuguese, translating, and then speaking English. I'm a self learner. I never did like an English course. So like I learned to English like watching movies, translating music, watching like the same movie like 10 times to be able to like know the dialogues, know what they're gonna say, and that helped me a lot with like expressions and slangs. And after a while, like when you talk and when you practice and you talk on the second language, like the majority of your day, it starts to become like a more fluent. But for sure, like the first 3 months was scary. Was scary. Even the interview, like Marcel, my friend, he's the design director as well. He said, "Dude, you nailed your interview. Your English was so better than a lot of other candidates." And I said, like, "Come on, impossible." Like I was crazy nervous. Like it was my first English interview using Skype, like using video. I was talking with you in Canada and T in Sweden. Like you, I know you're Brazilian, but like he's Canadian. Like he's native on the language, like insane. And after a while, like he just like, hey, I make myself understandable. Fine. It doesn't matter if I speak like the wrong verb or if I say like if I call he as her or she. If you make yourself like understandable, that's fine.
Yeah, and I think that's such a big fear for everybody who English is their second language or what they are learning or whatever. I mean, I was so afraid always to talk, but I feel like one point again, and I said now this is part of my brand. This is who I am. My English is not perfect, but people
Yeah, we have
understand.
accent.
Yeah, I have accent, and so I'm super proud of my accent. And like you said, my verbs sometimes are like I made them up by
Yeah,
myself. They're not even in
yeah,
the dictionary. But I think people now understand that that's who I am, and
yeah.
I don't have a pressure to like, oh my goodness, I have to sound professional and Canadian, whatever it is, to be part of the space. I think it's for us as Latinx or whoever culture you are to really own the space and said
Yeah.
yes, yes, English is not my first language, and I'm
And
good with
and the best part of working with Canadians, especially, is that they always say, "Dude, you're way better than me because you're learning a second language. I'm speaking my native language. I don't know a second language. Your brain is working in two different languages." Canadians always say that. Americans, sorry if there's an American here, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Canadians are always like asking, "Hey, how can I say this in Portuguese? Can you teach me something in Portuguese so we can exchange experience?" You are speaking in a second language, maybe a third language. So like your brain is working faster and better than you. Like don't be afraid to if you're speaking wrong or not like speaking like formally. It doesn't matter. Like I know what you mean. I understand you. That's fine.
And last question to close up. We already went more than enough. But from Isabel again, how can I put in my portfolio a design that the company said that is private? Ooh, this is a spicy one. What do I do?
Password.
How to present my work? Yes.
Password. Add the password. And for whomever you're gonna share that project, you say, "Hey, I can only share that doing a video call." And if you're recording that video call, I won't share because I have an NDA. I can be punished because of that. I can be fined. I can be like maybe like in jail. So I always say, hey, this project has a password. I can share it with you during this call, but please don't record the call. And I'm happy to screen share. And don't send any like JPEGs. PNG, PDF, whatever. Always have that on a screen share.
Yeah, there you go. This was so much fun. Sorry that I went away from our questions, but I think there was so much good stuff to talk about. And
Yeah.
if you enjoy, whoever is watching, people like Daniel, don't forget to follow me and subscribe so you keep hearing people like this. Amazing, inspired. By the way, Daniel, next weekend, I don't know if you know, is Latinx Heritage Month. We are going to have
Ooh.
a panel. It's going to be a juicy one. We have so many people. So yes, don't miss it out. Daniel, thank you so much for this.
Thanks for having me. It was amazing.
Yeah, take care, everybody. Thank you.